Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Brandon Smith. Brandon, thank you so much for being here.
Aaron Gordon, what's going on, man?
There's an extra level of nerves here at the KHP because I always get nervous when I interview a more seasoned podcast host.
No.
So a guy like you, excellent. Everyone should actually check out the podcast. Even if you're from New York like me, you can learn something from, I don't even want to say small town, like minuscule cows. There's like, I'm surprised that you have never like interviewed like a cow or a sheep or something, because is that all you have where you're from?
Yes, it is all we have. That would be a great episode. Yeah. Probably be more engaging than most. I think people would tune in or at least watch the YouTube of it. But no, dude, you've been podcasting, I think, longer than I have. And
I don't know about that, but
it's fun. It's an outlet.
I enjoy it. And I think that if people can get something from this, which I hope they do from this episode, then we've done something great. Anyone who follows you on social media, and everyone should read your bio and follow you on all the platforms. I am, on one hand, inspired, but on the other hand, I'm especially over the last 2 or 3 years, greatly concerned over the level of hustle that you portray. Have you hit 1 million Delta miles or whatever airline you fly? Have you hit 1 billion miles?
Yeah, we're somewhere up there.
Yeah,
I had someone recently ask me, like, do you get tired of flying and traveling? And truthfully, I mean, yeah, you're away from home and life, but being on a plane, it's fully expected. You know what it's going to be like, so you can plan ahead. You can get work done. You can read. You can whatever that might be. But when you fly enough, you get the perks. I mean, I eat better in the airport than I do at home because of the sky clubs, and it actually is a benefit. The downside is the delays, the taxiing, the takeoff, just a plane being parked at your gate. That's the downside. But
where does that drive come from? Meaning, many people would say, I have a business, I have a family, I travel for work, but I don't do what you do. I would say I travel when work necessitates. Part of your work is travel, is what I would say. And
yeah.
and the speaking engagements of that, what made you want to do that? How do you view that as part of your hustle? And how do you keep going?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I can give you the short, polished answer, or we can go real deep.
Deep.
Okay. Honestly, Aaron, I think it started deep in early years of life, my childhood. I grew up with incredible fear, probably portrayed itself as insecurity, a fear of abandonment, rejection. As a kid, I was very, what some would label competitive in terms of sports. I remember the last out of a baseball game where the tying run was on third base, and I popped out to right field at 11 or 12 years old and took my helmet off, and I threw it at the fence just out of anger and frustration. I remember my junior year of high school, 3.2 seconds on the clock, basketball game against our crosstown rival. The inbounds play falls apart, ball ends up in my hands. I shoot just off the corner of the free throw line right on the elbow, and it rims out and I miss. And I remember going into the locker room and taking off my Adidas Superstar and throwing it at the floor just out of frustration. And it was always labeled as Brandon's competitive. He lost the game. And as I matured and even went through some of my own just therapy and figuring out who is Brandon, I realized it never was. I mean, yeah, we wanted to win. It was competitive, but there was something inside of me that if I didn't make that shot or get that base hit, I might be found as invaluable, not lovable. Somebody may not come back for me. I'm not needed. And so there's kind of been a chip on my shoulder I got to perform. I got to do a great job. I have to pay attention to the details, because if I mess up, I might lose the client. I might lose the relationship. I might lose the gig. And it's become, I think, oftentimes our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. And what may come out as hustle and grind and doing all these things probably wasn't birthed from a real healthy place many years ago. And something I have to face daily and face the demons in my closet and make sure that my priorities are in line and I'm doing this for the right purpose.
That's an incredible answer, and everyone should listen to that again. But one of the things that currently I'm actually having a back and forth on LinkedIn with someone who I invited on the podcast, and he said he hates the word hustle. And one of the things that we try to do, we're trying to do here, is encourage people to define and redefine their hustle that inspires them. And so I think it's incredible that you were able to take this thing that might have been a little negative, and I imagine that you still get energized by it, meaning it could have broken you down, but like I see it, you're one of my top favorite speakers in the industry. And by that, we're going to get to the craziest speech ever.
Hold on, before we get to that, let me say something. You said, defining hustle, and I think that there's the Webster's dictionary definition, but what comes to mind for me when you say that, I think hustle is just effort.
100%.
Are you doing something to move forward? Hustle is not defined by pace, time, destination, finish line. It's effort. Are you just putting in effort? And we can quantify that 1,000 different ways, but for you, the individual, are you putting in effort? If so, you're hustling. Keep hustling.
I've said 100%, and I've said many times that, the joke about the housewife, my wife, we're blessed to have 5 children. That lady works much harder.
Is that it?
That's
you only
it.
Get 5?
That's it. Only 5. That's it.
When's number 6 going to be here?
Depends on when this episode is. No, I'm just kidding. Mom. Michelle, I'm not trying. I'm not trying to surprise you, but I say it's like, being the primary being the CEO of the home with 5 kids, ages 2 to 13. That's a level of hustle. Even though people say, "Oh, doing that," I get up early, I go to an office, I travel. That's a level of daily hustle and effort that I'm blessed that she puts in, because I think our children are amazing and they're being raised incredibly well. But
absolutely,
the traditional definition of hustle, someone would say that that's not hustle. She quote unquote doesn't work. But
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And another sports analogy, but with hustle always changes the game. You bring in that role player off the bench who just brings a level of hustle. They may not score, but hustle changes the game. Hustle changes the trajectory of life. Hustle changes the outcome from whatever situation you're in, because it simply is effort. Do you agree?
100%. And I think also maybe the most important thing about hustle is it removes doubt, meaning everybody has a view or a vision or a dream of success, or how they define success, or what they want to be, or how they want to be, or how they want to live. But in the end of the day, I believe that if a person actually hustles and puts that best foot forward, and as you said, day in and day out, puts in the effort, moves the needle just a little bit forward, then at least later you don't say, I could have, or I should have. Or what if I worked what if I hustled a little bit harder? What if I actually took this seriously? A person who defines it and goes after it, again, that doesn't mean that I am going to I can run an Ironman in the next 2 months. I can put in every effort I want. I'm not going to be prepared for it. I could do it maybe in the next year or 2, right. But when a person sets realistic, mature goals, then that's the drive of hustle. I got to ask you. So I said everyone should watch your speeches. I don't want to talk about number 12 because I don't. That's one of my. I know that's one of your go-to titles, but I will not discuss that as a unfortunate, miserable, depressed, angry, frustrated fan of the New York Football Jets. But
at least you have Aaron Rodgers right now.
No, we don't. He left.
Are you better without him?
We are the same. We're always going to be terrible.
Okay.
We're always going to be terrible.
Sorry.
But it's fine.
I'd love to see the Jets do all
A life of mediocrity. A life of mediocrity is fine. But you are the only person I've ever had on this podcast who gave a TEDx talk. And I'm inspired by that. And that I would say, as a person like you who does a lot of public speaking, and you spoke about this in your post leading up to it, like it's the pinnacle, right? I mean, it's the dream, it's the prep. So when a person, how do they define it, gets to that career pinnacle, obviously you mentioned you redefine, you keep growing, but what did it feel like going into it? And equally as important, when you finished, what did it feel like, and how did you re-up?
Wow. 2 incredible questions. The second question I have not been asked before. It's another one of those, I have a deep answer for it. What did it feel like? Honestly, Aaron, I've been privileged and been on big stages, small stages, square stages, round stages, like event, conferences, associations, breakouts, panels, and enjoy every single one of them. For me, multiple years ago, the dream was, I viewed it as the pinnacle, was getting on that TED stage. And I applied twice and got denied. I believe it was 2017 I applied, got rejected. Applied again in 2021, I believe, got rejected, and then applied again in 23 and got accepted. The TED
that's hustle. First of all, that's hustle.
The TED event was in October. I got the phone call February 2nd that I was accepted. I got off a call and don't know that I've ever been so emotional in terms of hands in the air, running outside, like, yes. So for me, the victory was getting accepted. It wasn't being on the stage. It was being there, being chosen, being picked. But then it became very difficult because it's TED. There's all these checkpoints and rehearsals along the way, fact checking, making sure the content that you are delivering is true and accurate, because a lot of people watch TED and make life altering decisions in terms of diet, nutrition, fitness, health, belief system, politics, religion. And so I had to spend a lot of time crafting a message that fit their parameters, that also fit inside the time frame parameter. This wasn't a go till you're done, or it's okay if you run a few minutes late. Like, it had to be dialed in. So a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of hustle went into TED.
And a lot of time, by the way. That's a lot of time to give someone to prepare and keep churning in it. Every once in a while, like, had they called you the week before and said they had a cancellation, it's a different level of, you know what I'm saying? It's like a different oh my God, you have 8 months, and then how much more do you
I almost wish they gave me 8 days instead of 8 months. That's what I'm saying. Because you get in your head and you take your intro and you're like, no, that's not going to work. And then you scrap it and you come back, and then you come back, and then you want to change your topic, and you're like, wait, I hit that deadline. I cannot change my title. I am locked into that, and I've got 5 months. And so it was one of the most difficult, but also the most rewarding. Aaron, there was something about that stage, that venue, that was just special. The way I'm wired is when I speak and come off stage, it's like, all right, that was great. Let's go to the next one. Like, I'm always like 2 steps ahead, planning, thinking, prioritizing, dreaming. For the first time ever, when that got done and I was on that stage, I just was there in the moment, just soaked it up, embraced it. The event ended and I came out from backstage. The auditorium was empty, and just sat on the stage looking out the auditorium. And my wife and kids were there, and just was like, wow. And my daughter, who 17 years old, she looks at me with tears in her eyes, and she goes, Dad, if there's one thing I learned today, listening to these TED Talks, it's that you taught me that I can achieve my dreams. She goes, for the last 5 years, you've talked about TED Talk, and today I sat here and watched my dad live his dream. And dude, I just lost
Game over. Game over.
It was like, that was the biggest takeaway. And I embraced it. I have a photo one of the photographers took of me sitting on the stage at the end. And to me, it's not just me sitting on a stage. It's that moment. It's that feeling. And so for me, who's somebody who's like, let's go, let's hustle, go, 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 for me to stop and just be present and just be in the moment was incredibly special. So huge honor. Yeah, pretty cool to be a TED Talk speaker, be a part of that alumni.
We're going to link it below, by the way. We're going to definitely link the
it was fun, a lot of fun. So thank you.
You know what's amazing about that story? We began by talking a little bit about your travel, the sacrifice of being away from family very often. By the way, I agree with you on airline status. The only thing is, I've never gotten comfortable in a hotel the first night.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing a one night, I don't end up sleeping. But I'm from New York, so we have a lot of direct flights. But yeah.
And let me add this. I've started adding this caveat. I have realized there's a lot of public speakers, comedians, artists, musicians who always talk family, but they're on the road 100, 150 days a year, which there's a disconnect. If family is so important to you and your priority, why are you gone? And I always wonder when people bring that up from stage about, here's my family, and highlight them in a photo. Is that a mask for it's not as great? Like I wondered that just recently. So, and you've seen it. You've been at events where I'm at. My family travels with me as much as possible. We're in this together. I don't like being by myself. The hotel room, you're right, that sucks. That first night is ruthless. So I will take one of my kids, my wife and kids, my wife and a kid. because it makes traveling so much easier when you're with family.
And someone would say that it does impact a relationship. But what I want to say is that it's amazing to me that the message of the dreams and the goals, it doesn't say on the sweatshirt, but one of our taglines is goals in sight, never quit. And I think that, and I mentioned this before on the podcast, one of the most important things about having parents or people who raise children actively is that we, by osmosis, impact our children. And I dream of the day, and my kids talk about it, they're a little bit younger, but like, even though you travel more than the average person, and yes, sometimes your wife comes, sometimes your kid comes, but your 17-year-old daughter has lived through the number of years of her father traveling. And yet, one of the things she tells you when you hit the top is, you showed me how to chase my dreams.
Yeah.
Not just you achieved your dream, but by you achieving your dream, and I've watched it, and I've listened to you talk about it, that has inspired me. And is there anything more that we can ask for our children to take from us than to be inspired to follow their path or chase their hustle, even if it's different than ours?
Well, how much, you've got 5, I've got 3. How much do our kids teach us? Like, I don't remember being a 17-year-old looking at my dad thinking, Dad, you just taught me I can achieve whatever I want. It's like, no, my dad taught me like how to change a light bulb. Like, I feel like it was very different. Like, did I really have that great of an impact on my parents? Like, are my kids prodigies? Like, what is it? Because maybe I'm just shallow. Maybe I'm just one of the dumbest people in the world, because what my kids are teaching me, what I'm seeing in them, dude, it brings tears to my eyes.
First of all, thank you for sharing that and all the depth. But I think it's amazing. And I think that a lot of people, one of the things that's going on in America today is people's dreams. There are those that say that having children squashes the dreams, or having children means you have to put your dreams on hold, or having children means you have to limit your hustle or limit your success. And honestly, I try not to jump into controversial topics on here, but I can't let your comment go by without saying that my children also have taught me. And I was blessed to learn from my father, he should rest in peace, and still today from my mother. And there is nothing like that. There is nothing like that. And you're right. The impact that children have on parents is equally as powerful. I think it's less definitive, right? Because your kids don't sit down and say, hey, let me teach you about this, or hey, let's discuss that thing that happened in your day today in school or with your friend that how to maybe handle it better next time or why it worked out. But I also just I love the certain innocence and naivety of kids.
Yeah.
Like, Daddy, you showed me how to chase my dreams. What she didn't remember, which is super interesting, is like probably the heartbreak you felt in 2021.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. Which is another thing about parenting and influence and hustle, is that if you're hustling and you're putting the effort in, it more inspires people than the down times negatively impact them.
Well, 100%. I remember pretty emotionally distraught. I think I had like a Facebook or LinkedIn post about just rejection, and I got told no by a conference I applied to speak at. And what's funny is over that 8 months from the time I got the call to the TED stage, the times I would rehearse out loud or be in my office. And so where my 17-year-old daughter would mock me, she would mimic me, she would impersonate me at dinner because she heard those lines over and over. And it was like, he's doing it again. I can't wait for TED to be over. But it was in that moment where the true depth, and I think that's a lot how life works. Like there's agitations, there's annoyances, there's the noise, there's the repetitivity, there's the redundancy. And then all of a sudden one day it's like, that's what this was about. I get it. And it changes us. It makes an impact and propels us forward.
What's the craziest thing that's happened to you at a speaking engagement? TEDx can't count. We already discussed TED. So
Crazy.
Give me something crazy or unexpected, like an unexpected positive. Unexpected positive. Like
I mean, this one's not great. First one that comes to mind, I was at a conference. I was flown in it was actually in Boston, Massachusetts. Flown in to speak.
Another one of my favorite cities of all time.
Is that for real? Is that sarcastic? Because
I'm from New York, bro.
Okay, just making sure. I was
disrespect that you're spitting in my direction on my podcast, Brandon Smith.
Wow, I was like, dang, Aaron, that's wicked awesome.
Yeah, no.
So, flown into Boston, I contract documented. One of the keynote speakers, keynote had the time slot, and I get there. I meet with the event organizer. The next morning, come downstairs. I'm back in their green room, and the event organizer comes up to me and says, hey, we made a mistake in our scheduling. We're going to move you down the hall and have you do a breakout while this other keynote's going on.
Dude, I hope you squash that.
I was prepared to be on a stage of, I think it was 1,200 people. I was in a breakout room where 7 people showed up.
By the way, competing with the keynote, not just like doing a different, a breakout session.
Same time. Completing with the keynote. I sat there, had this pity party for myself, felt like it's not going to be the same. The jokes, the engagement, the energy, it's going to fall flat. It did. It was horrible. But again, one of those experiences that changes perception, changes your view, changes your life.
I find it amazing that you actually did it. That's my pet peeve.
I wasn't there for me, Aaron. I was there to invest in others. I was making it about me. I learned to communicate better with the event planners moving forward and making sure that, hey, our agreement was very clear. But if I'm on stage purely for me, it's wrong motives. My goal, my dream, what drives me, what causes me to hustle is I want to motivate, I want to encourage, I want to inspire others. And nowhere in there is it about 1,200 or 7. It's about others. And so what may have been the worst speaking keynote presentation I've ever delivered may have just been the greatest delivery for me. It was more for an audience of 1.
And by the way, those people probably were impacted better than the 1,200. It's just hard to get there. But
3 of them left halfway through. So hopefully the 4 were impacted.
So it really fell flat. So you can verify that.
Well, no, as a public speaker, like my goal is to keep people engaged, informed, have a buy-in. I do not want to be the speaker where people are like looking for the next break. How long till the next break? How much longer is he going? Like,
100%.
Tough spot to be.
What would you say to the Brandon of 8, 9, 10 years ago who was just starting the hustle and starting to pivot from athlete to serial inspirer and speaker?
I would say don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle.
That's incredible. I love that.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have said that one of the things that this podcast is about is everybody sees the successes. Right. Everybody sees.
But
nobody talks about the failed Apple products, right? Everybody talks about the iPhone.
Right. And what we do, Aaron, is we judge success based on a plotted point rather than look at the trajectory scale. I can tell you success stories about speaking, life, business. Those are all just plotted points. What I'm not telling you is the times we failed, the times we've lost, the times we lost money, the times we weren't profitable, all the learning experiences that made that one plotted point. Now, we've got to stop judging people's success based on their plotted points and look at the trajectory of their life.
And how they are constantly and consistently taking that one step forward. Anybody who's moving the needle for themselves, personally or for the world or community around them, that's a positive. And that's what Keep Hustling is about, by the way. And a great
I was going to say, did we just go full circle? Are we back to effort? Are we back to
100%. We're back to effort and impacting others in the best way that we can. So
yeah.
I don't think there's a better way to bring this full circle. And I would say to everybody, watch the TED Talk, the TEDx Talk. It was awesome.
Thank you.
If you're looking for speakers, Brandon's top in the insurance industry and outside. Make sure you put him on a keynote, even though he just said that he's willing to do it for others. And with that, Brandon, I'll ask you, as we do all of our guests, to leave us with your favorite motivational, inspirational quote and what it means to you and to your hustle. And again, thank you for taking out the time and for being here on the KHP.
Absolutely. Honored to be here. Gosh, there's so many quotes that come to mind that could pull out so many moments from different movies and classics and sports movies and, Remember the Titans and Miracle. Like I could roll off a bunch for you right now, or Braveheart. One quote I really like: whoever saves one life, it's as if they saved the entire world. It doesn't matter if it's an audience of 1,200 or 7. My job is to motivate, believe in people, encourage them, improve their life. And if I can do that for one person at a time, one household at a time, that's how we change the world. That's how we make a difference. It's never been about the masses. It's been about our neighbor, the guy across the street. And I think I'm simply called to be kind, not right. It's easy to get into arguments about my beliefs, my politics, my theology, whatever it may be. And we can be so wrong in proving how right we are that I believe the greater calling is to be kind. So whoever saves one life, whoever makes an impact in one life, whoever makes a difference in one life, you're going to save the world.
I love that. Brandon Smith, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Aaron.
This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good, and always keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.